Hi everybody, Laura here from My Favorite Things. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to share a colorful row of houses project with you featuring some new goodies from the latest May release with My Favorite Things. I'm going to start with this adorable My Neighborhood Die-namics die set. And what it has is 8 cute little houses with 8 cute little roofs, and they're all just a little bit different. Some are taller, shorter, wider, all that. So I snipped apart all of the 8, but I left the roofs intact. That way I wouldn't get too confused and forget which roof went with which house. Okay, and then I cut some scraps of solid color cardstock, and I'm going to cut, you know, I couldn't resist a row of rainbow houses. I mean, that in itself is what gets me out of bed in the morning. Rainbow houses just give me life. Now, what I did was I die cut the house and the roof out of the same color. But you could also do, like, maybe if you want to do all black roofs or, you know, slate gray roofs. But I wanted to do, have the roofs be, am I using the right word? Is it roofs or roofs? I always get confused on that. My husband's Canadian, and we always joke because sometimes he has his own. Tonight we were talking about Massachusetts, and I'm telling you, he was serious as all get out. He called it Massachusetts, and it took me a while to pick up on it, Massachusetts. And I'm like, no, it's Massachusetts. So now I'm not sure if it's roofs or roofs, but potato. I wanted my roof to be one shade darker than the house. So what I did was I faked it. I'm coloring the roof with a Copic marker. And I'm not being too finicky on the color. I just picked one that looked a little bit darker. And this is a good way if you don't have 1,000,001 shades of solid color cardstock, you could do this. But you know what else you could do that would work just as beautifully? Cut all the houses and all the roofs out of white cardstock. And you could color them with watercolor. Or you could also use ink blenders. Blend in that color. You know, any way you go, I don't think you can go wrong because these houses are just too cute for words. And I love anything architectural. Something about it just tickles my fancy. I also love vehicles and hot air balloons. I like airplanes. I also like French fries and monkeys. But that's for another day. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take all of these roofs, and I'm going to adhere. I'm using some Bearly Arts glue. Just a little dabble do ya. I actually find I get better results with the glue if I do tiny dots. But I often don't have the patience for it. So you know what, when you get too much glue on there and it oozes out the sides, and then it gets on your craft mat, and it's on your fingers, and then everything starts sticking to you, chaps your khakis. It really does. So working my way through the rainbow order. And now here's 8 I did. But I think when it was all said and done, I probably did about 16 houses. You know, when you get in the rainbow house zone, you kind of lose all track of time. You forget what day it is. And you just like get lost in it. I mean, look at this. Now this is far too many houses for one card. So I had to rein it in. I had to make some difficult cuts. And only a few houses made it onto the card. You know, what are you going to do? I'll save the houses for another day. Now what I'm going to do here is cut a freehand grassy hill. I'm just using my craft knife. And you got to do it with confidence. Take a deep breath and just go in and then swoop it. So that's the best way I could describe it. But if you have like a hilly die, or you could also use a stencil, you know, a hilly stencil. But I just freehand it. Now this is the new Right at Home sentiment stamp set that pairs perfectly with these houses. And I love the sentiment that I chose for this. It says, I wish you were my neighbor. I think I could send this to every single one of my crafty friends. I mean, how fabulous would that be to have a crafty card making friend as your neighbor? I think my husband might die, but I would be in heaven. And anyhow, you know, since we've been back in Illinois, I have been just so ecstatic. I just feel like I can take a deep breath because I'm just home and it's spring and I'm just so happy. And but you know what? Having a house is a lot of work. Been working my tushy right off because, you know, when we lived in Germany, we had an apartment and not a lot of maintenance, not a lot at all. But, you know, here It's nothing but, I should be skinny, is what I'm trying to say, is why am I not skinny? But then I forgot. I did have McDonald's for supper. So I think maybe I'm just breaking even, is what it is. Now, I'm going to adhere these houses. What I'm doing is I'm going to like stagger them. So some I use glue and adhere them flat. And then the next one I'll pop up with foam tape. So every other house is, you know, popped up and flat down. That's a little play on dimension. Little dimension for the eyes. Because you know dimension is life. And another thing about the home is we live on a pond. And we had, you ever heard of duckweed? I think that's what it's called. Covered the whole entire pond with this green, grimy duckweed. And it was just disgusting. You should have saw the little ducks and the Canada geese trying to swim through it. It's so sad. So all the neighbors chipped in for whatever it is that you spray in. The guy went around with a little boat and he sprayed this stuff in to kill the duckweed, and it's starting to die, and it's looking prettier each day. Looks better and better. And here's this card. I finished it. I popped it up on a cream card base. This is a Slimline. I think it's 3.5 by 8.5 long. And you know what? If I knew your address, I would send this to you because I wish you lived next door. I really do. And I, for one, am going to have the greenhouse. So you're going to have to pick which color you want. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.